I'm always grateful for people I turn to on a pretty regular basis and consistently share clarity, give us some clarity on not only domestic but world issues. One such voice on the very short list is the former Speaker of the House. He's the author of the book Treason, a Novel, and he knows a thing or two about this congressional district in Georgia. Let's welcome on our guest line the one and only Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, happy Tuesday. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm just trying to keep up with all this. I want to throw you a curveball. You in the mood for a curveball?
Sure, why not?
Why not? You had sky-high approval ratings as Speaker of the House. I've been watching and kind of fascinated by the challenges that the current Speaker is facing, Paul Ryan. He's got some sky-high disapproval ratings right now. Now, it's understandable because he's the Speaker of the House at a time when the Republican Party is largely divided. But my buddy Lou Dobbs is constantly, on his back saying, listen, this guy is unpopular. He's a disaster. He had to quarterback the repeal and replace of Obamacare, and look where that got us right now. Can you give me the Newt Gingrich, Solomon-type wisdom on the role right now of Speaker Ryan and what you think he's doing well and what maybe he could change?
Well, look, I think, first of all, that Paul Ryan is extraordinarily bright. And that he is the leader of a system which is in transition. Mm-hmm. They were the majority for the last 6 years, but they were the opposition because Obama was president. So they never got in the rhythm and the habit of being a majority party that was governing. And they're very different. When you're in the opposition party, first of all, people don't pay careful attention to what you're doing because the president's going to veto it, or it's not going to get through the Senate. So you have a much easier time writing things, and you don't get beaten up as much. Right. Whereas if you are actually going to govern, the stuff you're writing is real, and you suddenly have people scrutinizing it and taking it apart and criticizing it at a level of intensity that you're not used to. Second, if you're in the opposition, your primary job is to oppose. Mm-hmm. But if you're the governing majority, and you got a Senate Republican majority, and you got a president who's a Republican, now you got to actually think through doing positive things in a positive way. Speaker Sam Rayburn used to say that any jackass can kick down a barn, but it takes a carpenter to build one. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, Ryan is presiding over a House Republican Party in transition. And it's compounded by President Trump because Trump represents a force in American politics. It's not Reaganism. It's not Bushism. It's not traditional conservatism. I'm actually writing a book right now called Understanding Trump, which will come out in June. Right. And I'm doing it in part because Trump is such a unique, creative figure, but he's different. So here you get these guys who are trying to figure out. And the other thing is they decided to tackle health care first. And I would never have recommended that because – healthcare is 1/5 of the economy. It is life and death. People don't look at it as an ideological issue. I mean, we have a relative, for example, who's had a liver transplant. Well, her attitude about preconditions is this is life and death.
Right.
So the intensity with which people respond on healthcare is different than almost anything else you deal with. And now, having said all that, I think, and I talked at length with Paul on Saturday, I know that he is himself really trying to think through what went wrong and how they should have approached it and what lessons need to be learned. Mm-hmm. And I think, like everybody else, he's a little frustrated because I think they thought they had a pretty good package. They thought they had really moved forward with stuff that they'd offered last year and that it was going to go through pretty easily. And this whole reality of now, wait a second, this is no longer a publicity device. This is now going to be a law. That changed the measurement of everybody, and I think as a result, it became really hard to pass something. Now, I mean, I'm
just frustrated. I agree. I mean, they're going to work their way through it. I'm just frustrated that there seems to be a lack of unity that should accompany that transition you refer to. Do you sense that as well? That there are Republicans who are refusing to at least present a united front in order to pass important legislation?
Sure. And I think it's true on both sides. I think it's true of the moderates, and I think it's true of the Freedom Caucus. I think you get guys who get up in the morning look in the mirror and decide they're heroically going to save America, and they don't understand why these other people are stupid. You know, and
yeah.
you know, I mean, some of that, but that's a free society. I mean, you get 435 House members, you get 100 senators. A certain percentage of them are going to be hard to deal with.
Of course.
And that's what leadership has to learn how to do. The other thing which Trump has not really yet come to grips with, and let me say, I say this with great caution because I think that he is just doing brilliantly right now in foreign policy, and I think that he's done brilliantly on the Supreme Court, and he's done brilliantly with deregulation. But there is, and you've heard me say this before, right, on this very show, Reagan had 16 years from his Goldwater speech to becoming president, including 8 years as governor. I had 16 years from the time I arrived to the time we won a majority, the first one in 40 years.
Right.
Trump had about 15 months.
That's right.
So there's no Trump doctrine. This is part of why I'm writing Understanding Trump. There's no Trump doctrine. There's no Trump training academy. There's no Trump organization. You know, this guy is an extraordinary outlier whose pure skill and capability propelled him to a victory that very few people thought possible. And so you don't have a deep enough bench right now working on the problems. It's a very thin operation, and that the legislative branch doesn't respond well outside of a crisis like Pearl Harbor or 9/11. The legislative branch is not designed to be rushed.
Right. No hurry. There's no reason to hurry.
When you try to rush it, it falls apart, frankly.
Kurt Schlichter wrote a great piece that at townhall.com this week about Trump's foreign policy and how there's just a different tone from the 8 years of fecklessness from Barack Obama. The Syrian strike was a perfect example of that. It was a wake-up call to the world that with this new sheriff in town comes the understanding that, you've got somebody in Russia said, well, we don't understand what they're doing in the United States and Syria, and not only there, but around the world. Good. That's a good thing when you're acting like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening out of the Trump administration early on that it seems to me the American people are embracing because it's about time that we acted like the superpower we are.
You know, it was great. He did this interview, I think, with Ainsley yesterday, and part of it was running on Fox and Friends this morning. And he goes through this whole list, and he says, well, do you think that we blew up the missile? And he goes, I'm not commenting.
Right. Why am I going to comment? I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing.
That's right.
What a different approach. How about that? Not tell the world our secrets.
Well, the amazing, and of course, this is part of what you have to remember, and it's why the legislative part of what he's doing is different than the other parts. Okay?
Right.
The fact is that in the case of North Korea, for example, he's already communicated. He let them watch him use 59 Tomahawk missiles on one airfield. He let them watch him use our second biggest bomb, which is amazing, by the way. That bomb's the second big. We have a bigger bomb available.
Right. Bigger than the mother of all bombs? What's that, the father of all bombs?
Well, no, this must be the grandmother of all bombs. But anyway,
good answer.
The mother of all bombs is 22,000 pounds, and there's one that's 30,000. It's actually designed to go into a nuclear facility.
Right.
It's designed to penetrate underground facilities. So anyhow, the Chinese have done, and I'm frankly totally frustrated with the elite media, because here you have this extraordinary moment. The Chinese abstain on the Syrian resolution, leaving the Russians all alone in the UN Security Council. Mm-hmm. The Chinese have dramatically reduced the shipments of coal from North Korea, cutting off North Korean foreign exchange. The Chinese have moved 150,000 troops to the Korean border. All these positive things are happening, and you get some idiot in the press saying, oh, but wasn't he supposed to punish them for being currency manipulators? And doesn't this prove that he's broken his word? And I sensed Trump's frustration when this came up, and he's saying, let me get this straight. They are helping us with the most dangerous single problem on the planet. Mm-hmm. And you think this would be a good time to pick a fight with them. I just need to understand how insane you are.
Yeah.
And I think we have, those of us who are conservative have to be much tougher with the elite media when they go off on these goofy ideas and communicate to the country, this is baloney.
Well, let's take a minute or two that we have left on that elite media and the narrative that if this in this primary today, this Georgia special election, if this 30-year-old Democrat neophyte who's had lots of millions of dollars pumped into his campaign from all over the country, if he does well and crosses the 50% threshold, that's it for the Trump era. That's all over. The House goes to the Democrats. I mean, what's your overview of a seat that you know quite well in Georgia right now?
First of all, I think he's going to get between 44 and 48. Could he possibly get 50? Maybe, but I don't think he will. I think 3 weeks ago he might have. The people got awake, and you've had the president do robocalls. I was on Hannity pushing very hard. I'll do it right here again.
Right.
Everybody listening to us from everywhere in America, make sure that you tweet or you email or you Facebook or you phone call every person you know in the 6th District of Georgia, which is the North Georgia area, and the North Atlanta area, and make sure you tell them to go out and vote today. If every Republican votes today, there is no possibility that this Democrat's going to win. And when he loses, if he gets 44%, he'll get 40 to 44% in the general. In the
general, he loses in the general.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you heard this, but there was a very awkward interview that the Democrat candidate, gave on CNN. Very awkward because he had to dodge a question. It turns out he doesn't live in the district he's trying to represent. He's going to miss the big photo op on Election Day of him voting for himself because he can't. He's not eligible to vote in the district he's running for. Did you know that?
I do know that, and I think that was, frankly, the fact that CNN ran it shocked me.
Right. I mean, and they kept pressing him. I mean, good for them. I mean, to their credit. Right. I mean, it got so awkward. We'll play the interview here in a minute on CNN. Allison Camerata had to end the back and forth by letting the viewers know that, in fact, he can't vote in the special election.
Right.
That could be a problem, Mr. Speaker.
I think it's one of the things that's going to kill him because all of his money came from outside the district. It's like 99% is from outside the district. The Hollywood left wing has been talking about him. He got the cover of New York Magazine.
Right.
I mean, you pile all these things up and you say to a typical Georgian, didn't you always want to be represented by an unknown left-winger who doesn't live in your district, who represents the Hollywood left and is the favorite of the New York media left?
Right. Right. I mean, that's a winner.
What I tell reporters, what the sophisticated, national reporters who call me, I tell them, why don't you ask Senator Michelle Nunn how this works?
Yeah, how's that work out? Mr. Speaker, it's great having your perspective. All the best. Can't wait for your book in June, and give my best to Callista. Keep fighting the good fight, sir.